Welcome to IGL sketching class number 3. In this class we are going to learn about shading techniques. So what are the types of the shading and getting on to shading. The first one you see here is tonal. So tonal shading is nothing but the normal shading which everybody uses. So what you do in tonal shading is normally you shade. So I made a lighter shade, I'll make a darker one here. So this is how the tonal shading is done. And next one is smudging. So smudging is nothing but after you do your shading, normal tonal shading which you do, you can do this technique with your stump, smudging stump, or with a piece of cloth, or with your fingers, cotton buds. Different artists use different thing to do the smudging. I use this smudging stump. So what I do is I put some pressure over it and I do exactly what I do with the pencil. I just rub it. When you're doing this technique, you should be extremely careful. You're likely to spread your shading areas. See, you are likely to cross the border and do the spreading. So what I do is after shading, I just erase off if it has crossed the borders and then just make it perfect. But it would be better if you stay inside the border. So this technique is used to make your drawing very smoother. So I will show all examples of the shadings done. So this one is used for bringing the smoothness and bringing the drawing extremely smooth. So this shading, I'll show you the diagram after explaining the shading techniques, so you will understand. And you need to be very careful when using smudging because you are likely to spoil the drawing if you don't concentrate. This is a very wonderful technique which I personally like it very much, because this creates a completely smoother shading and it looks better when you do the shading. So the next one is hatching. So hatching technique is nothing but same as tonal, but you draw it individually. You hatch it with the lines, diagonal lines. Draw some dark lines. This is called hatching method. You do the shading with cross lines. See, this is how you do hatching. And next one is cross hatching. Similar to hatching, what you do here is do this, and after you do the hatching, you put some cross hatching lines. See, this is also one type of shading technique. It's called cross hatching. This is cross hatching. And the next method is scumble. So how you do scumble is by moving your pencil in an oval shape. So see, I don't know how much you're able to see it. I believe you've got an idea about scumble. You move it in an oval shape and just keep rotating. Got it? So you keep moving your pencil like this. So that is one type of shading. It's called Scumble. And the last type of shading is Stipple. And Stipple method is a very time consuming method but easier to do, but you need a lot of patience. Stipple is nothing but you hold your pencil and you produce dots. You put as many dots as possible to create that shade. Normally this technique is used when you use a micro tip pen or a normal pen for drawing. So it's purely up to you whichever shading technique you choose to make. So this is how you do the stipple technique. You put dots, as many dots as possible and as many dots as required in your sketching. So this is the last type of shading. You might see it here. So let me show you the example. In order to save time, I've already drawn it, and I'm going to show you a picture where a sketch where I've used these 6 shading techniques. Let me show it to you. Just give me a minute. See? I hope you're able to see it. So along with this along with this shadings explained over here, I've also drawn a new nose. So please do ignore the size of the nose, as there was no structures. I just made it roughly. So in the first technique, tonal, you see it. That is how the shading is done. So you can do the shading like this. In the second method, I've done some smudging. See, this is why I like this technique a lot. This looks more kind of original if you go for a full portrait, and I've done the smudging. That is up to person's perspective, but I generally like normally all the portrait drawings they make, they do this method to give the wonderful finish to that sketching they've made, and it looks so beautiful. But you have to be extremely careful when you're doing this. And this one is hatching. It might look similar, but you see the space between these lines. It's more here, and you just use these shading methods over here. See, just draw your lines over here, and this is how you shade with a hatching. And if you prefer to choose cross hatching, then this is how you make these lines and you do the cross hatching, so you get this. See, and in darker shades you just put, this is where see, in the darker areas I'm using the same pencil, but I'm just varying my pressure control. As you learned in the previous class, this is where pressure control comes into picture. I'm using a 2B, sorry, I'm using an HP pencil, and see, depends on the pressure, it goes darker and it goes lighter. So I have not chosen. However, you can choose a different pencil for the darker shade, but you can also do it with the same shade of pencil, HP. Now moving on to Scumble. So this is how you do it with Scumble. See, you just put it, just oval shapes, just move around and shade those areas. And wherever you want darker shading, you put some pressure over your pencil so that you get a darker shading. And finally, the stipple technique. See, in stipple, this is what we do. You put dots over here, dots. So depends on the pressure that you put. It varies. See, if you want darker dots, you need to put a little bit more pressure over your pencil so that you can. And this one is also very time consuming, and you need a lot of patience. Generally, if you want to make a portrait drawing, you need a lot of patience. I would suggest you go for some easier object like an apple or an orange, or some small subject, and try it and do try out all the shading techniques. So that's it for class number 3, and do practice all these techniques, and do let me know if you have any doubts or how to do it, or do let me know in the group. And thank you.